Greetings, family. We are a couple and we have traveled to Africa twice for under $5,000. Have you ever had curiosity of traveling to the motherland? Well, we are going to help you get back to Africa.
My name is Sincere. This is my wife Nefera, and we're the Growin Folx, and we're growing in more ways than one. We want to take you along that journey. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and join us for this video. Check it out. I grow, you grow, we grow. Let's work together, watch a new world unfold.
In today's vlog, we are going to discuss flight arrangements, accommodations, the visa process, and some mistakes to be mindful of as not to exhaust your budget. Starting with your visa application. So in that visa process, it was really a quick process. However, there was some issues with logging on to the visa site and accepting the payment. There's nowhere on the website that actually tells you what type of cards are accepted. It lists Visa, MasterCard, Amex, etc. However, it doesn't accept virtual banks. So if you have a card that is assigned to a virtual bank like a Cash App or any of the other Chime,
Borrow bank, things like that. Yeah, you want to make sure that you're clear on what type of bank you're working with and payment processes.
Right.
It can get a little temperamental when you try to process your payment on the site.
So we were able to overcome the challenges for 2 weeks in nervousness by constantly calling. I emailed the embassy in Uganda directly and got some feedback. They don't help from this side. So they referred me into the DC office, which I had already outreached because I outreached them the first time that we applied for our visa. This is our second trip. Mm-hmm. And it so happened that the person that I spoke with the last time helped me yet again. And he went through a whole process of troubleshooting. So for you, be sure that you use a debit card to pay for your visas that is attached to a standard traditional bank account. Your Visa or Master debit card will work best. My Capital One credit card didn't even work. Yeah. So I suggest for most efficient access is use your debit card.
You want to make sure you go to this website here to sign up and do the process for the visa online.
To receive the visa was actually about 24 hours. We were able to receive our visas both times. When the payments were received, we immediately got our visa email document to download in the email that we signed on for in our application within 24 hours. It's a very efficient process as long as the payment is accepted.
One of the key things you also want to remember is this is your first time heading to the continent, particularly for East Africa, because there are different countries that maybe have different processes. But for sure for East Africa, you want to make sure you have your yellow fever vaccination shot ready to go. So again, we mentioned this is our second time. We're here in the Pearl of Africa right now in Uganda. But for our first time traveling out, if you've never been, you want to make sure you get the yellow fever vaccine. Now, this vaccine, you want to make sure you go to a proper, medical professional. And the vaccine itself, once you get it, now it is a lifetime thing. So since we got it the first time 2 years ago in 2023, we did not have to get it this second time. All we had to do when you get your vaccine actually is you get a yellow card that has information that you had the vaccine and has all your crucial information on it. So you just make sure you take that card with you every time you do a return visit, right? And we hope you do a return visit. So make sure you have that card with you at all times, and that'll make sure that you're good to go at the very least.
So keeping in mind with the yellow fever card, I actually did a lot of research our first time getting out. I asked a bunch of people, I did a lot of research online, and I called a lot of different places. The fee for the yellow fever, we finally ended up paying $195. And with that was our examination, our yellow fever vaccination, and it included our malaria pills and prescription as well. So that was all encompassing. But I called around to a bunch of different people and I was quoted a lot of different fees, upwards of as much as $495 per person. So I'm going to link the actual place that we went to where we paid $195 to help you curtail that experience.
Now, as Neff mentioned, we also had malaria pills included in our initial process of getting the yellow fever vaccination. But should you go again, if you leave, you go again, you come back, you want to make sure you still have those malaria pills just in case, because you never know. So you can also just make sure you contact your PCP, your primary care physician, to make sure you get that ahead of time as much as possible. Now, we want to be clear, we did run into some challenges this time around. Our PCP is based in New York, and what we found for this trip is that apparently for whatever reason, there's been a recent shortage in malaria pills. So you want to make sure that you have as much lead time before your travel to get the necessary pills you need. General rule of thumb is about 30 days worth of supply.
Yeah.
As a safeguard, since we were not able to get them for this particular trip, we were able to thankfully get them here in the country at one of the local pharmacies, and get malaria pills for 9,000 Ugandan shillings per pill. So that was a safeguard in the face of something like that. So again, just be sure that you have enough lead time to get everything you need. If you already have for your second go around your vaccination, make sure your malaria pills are ready to go and accessible. But if not, it is available here in the Pearl of Africa.
So we're going to talk about the flights and how you book. We actually booked our own flight. We've been doing a lot of research for the past couple of years around our travel and our desire to come to the motherland. There are many groups that do group trips to Africa, and they're often $4,000 or more, and they visit several cities within 8, 10, 12, 14 days. That was not going to be a trip sufficient for my needs, for our needs, and for our discovery process. So we booked our flights through booking.com, and then we booked all of our processes through that, where we were able to stretch our trip out to 6 weeks. I suggest booking the flights at least 6 weeks to 2 months in advance, because both times that was very beneficial for the both of us. We got a reduced rate. We were able to look really far ahead to see the calendar, and it literally shows you the days that the fee changes and adjusts slightly. You're also able to pick your seats assignments, your meal assignments, and we took Qatar. We really like Qatar. That's our recommendation, because the food on the Qatar flights, exceptional. The service is exceptional. And we were on a flight where there are about 300 people, and maybe 6 bathrooms, 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 bathrooms. And they were always immaculate each time I went. And I'm a bathroom person. I'm in there once an hour, because also I have to stretch. So the bathrooms were extremely clean, as if they were being serviced after each person. I don't know that they were, but it appeared as much as to me. And we actually use public transportation often and take trains and buses all over the tri-state area, and the bathrooms are not the cleanest. So to be on a flight for 11 to 15 hours and find that the restrooms are extremely clean was very helpful to me.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we're talking from a lens of like, we're coming from New York, so the East Coast area, so the flight can be anywhere. I mean, you're going to expect a layover, period, but the flights can be anywhere, like Neff said, between 11 to 15 hours, and generally, particularly through Qatar Airways, you'll stop in Doha for X amount of times, and it's usually a 5-hour flight as your final destination. For, in this case, Uganda, it's about a 5-hour flight from Doha. So just expect those rough estimates of time frames for travel to get to your final destination. For us, this to go around, we had a bit of a longer layover, and we ended up staying in Doha for 17 hours, which is incredibly long time. But just as an aside, it was great because Qatar apparently affords you a night to stay at a hotel, and also puts up dinner and breakfast just to give you some nice comfort while you're waiting for your flight.
During that process, we also were offered a night tour. So being that we came in the evening, late afternoon, we were given our accommodations for the hotel suite and breakfast and dinner. We went on a night tour. So we had a private night tour by one of the local transportation companies. It took us around to a couple of attractions, and we were able to take in some of Doha in the local areas.
Also, finally, so one of the things you want to keep in mind with the flight is that expect to pay, again, depending how far out you go, probably between anywhere from $950 roughly to maybe $1,100, $1,200, depending on how close you get. So if you're getting maybe a month out, probably around $1,200 rough estimate. Again, we're also coming from the East Coast of the United States, just to be clear. Could be different west, maybe so. but just expect around that rough estimate per person
Right.
when booking that flight.
Now that you've booked your flight, let's look at accommodations. So for us, what we wanted to do was we wanted to take an opportunity to relax. It was important for us to always, we buy black. So we did the research and we found a place in Uganda that is owned and operated by Ugandans. This would give us an opportunity to have an authentic, up close and personal experience with Ugandan people, as well as we would be able to have people to, if we had any questions, we could immediately have someone to access to ask questions. We didn't book a group. We didn't come with a crew of people, an affiliation. So with that, the villa actually acted as our go-to person, per se. So that was important to us. And we also had the opportunity to sit in nature and just decompress for the first week. We didn't want to have any demands. We didn't want to have to go anywhere. We didn't want to have to do anything. So we just sat at the villa for the first 7 days to work off the jet lag in our first and second trip. Yeah. This is a constant staple because one, the time difference, and two, the energy. Our trip to Africa, to Mama Africa, is really more for us about the energy, about purging, about self-discovery and expansion. So we keep that in mind with all of the decisions that we make through this process. So our first stop was a local villa that was owned and operated by Ugandans.
So again, this is our second trip. And for our first trip, we wanted to get as much of a robust experience out of Africa as possible. And in turn, it helped inform this trip now. So we decided to go to Akasha Villa, as Neff explained, for our first week. And we decided, you know what, how can we get the best in the different aspects of the city? Mm-hmm. You know, staying in Kampala, staying in the city, main city in Uganda. So we traveled around week to week to different hotels at different plate locations across the city center, across Kampala, to get a good vibe of the city culture, the culture of the people, and not really treat it like a real touristy thing. We wanted to be as present and as grounded with the community as possible. And we're folks who believe, like, so crucially, like, this, that it's such a necessity to be with the people whenever you visit somewhere. So that was a main goal of our travel, you know, and as a result of seeing the different places, from a villa to a hotel, week to week, it informed our second trip around and let us know, you know what, let's spend a lot of time here at the villa now, the comfort, the fact that they're supporting local Ugandans, and just the very carefree vibe and the peace that we know we need as a kind of soft landing back into the space once we arrive to the motherland.
We were able to actually leave from the Akasha on our first trip, and we went to Dolphin Suites, which is a resort. We moved around to Hera Hotel, along with Kochi. So these are other hotel accommodations. And when we looked on the booking.com, it was necessary because I had had spinal surgery. So it was necessary for us to find a place where my doctor instructed me to be sure to do my stretches daily, to take in heat. So it was important to have a sauna, steam room, and a place that had a fitness center. So when I did the booking.com, these were requirements, along with moving around, getting some change in scenery, and checking out some of the different cuisines and seeing the energy and vibes in different spaces.
One thing with Akasha Villa as a great landing space is that it is the local mall is not too far away. There's actually some decent shopping and things to take in the area that's walking distance, which includes the mall, which even includes, if you like to take a nice brisk walk, the Uganda Museum. So there's a lot of different areas where you can kind of get your first footing when you come to a place like Akasha Villa here in Uganda.
So I want to do a quick recap on exactly what the price difference so that you can make an informed decision. We booked through booking.com, and Akasha is more like a bed and breakfast, somewhat of a hostel. There's breakfast is provided, and the rooms range from anywhere from $21 to $50 per night. Okay, and the resort at Dolphin Suites and Hera Hotel and Kochi, those were convention centers / higher end hotels, and they were located in city centers. Those rooms were anywhere from $37 to $55 per night. They also provide breakfast. Quick tip, I book hotels that always provide breakfast because when you travel, everything you eat, you have to pay for. So if you can get one of your meals accommodated, that makes it so much lighter on your budget.
Definitely so. We think about lighter on your budget because if you can be good with breakfast, you can go through the rest of your day and not have to worry about it. So that's one way to think about it. So now you're here. How do you get around, right? Well, to backtrack a little bit, you have to get to your accommodations, don't you? So one thing that you want to keep in mind, depending on where you go, whether it's a villa or a hotel, generally hotels may have an airport shuttle or taxi or things of that nature. And that's one thing to keep in mind when traveling from the airport to your, let's say, your hotel accommodations. And a taxi can be anywhere from, for USD, let's say, could be $20 to $35 or so, or $40 for your travel. And that can cover about maybe 30 minutes or so, depending how far out you are. Other than that, going about the city, they're one of the main ways that Ugandans may tend to travel, speaking because we're in Uganda and in Kenya, are the boda bodas, which are like kind of like motorcycles that make it easier to travel and are very quick to go from place to place.
Yes.
And those usually, depending on how close your transportation is, can be anywhere from 2,000 Ugandan shillings to 10,000 Ugandan shillings, depending on how far you may be going, right? Very local, 2,000 or so shillings. For those that love Uber, Uber does operate here, and you can use Uber, or also another option is Safe Boda. Now, Safe Boda is a platform where you can call a taxi, a car, or you can call a Boda and ensure you have a nice, safe ride and a nice protected ride from your driver to get you where you need to go. And a taxi can range anywhere between 10,000 to 20 something thousand Ugandan shillings as well.
So family, let's eat. Let's eat. So here in Uganda, you can generally expect to pay anywhere from $7 to $15 per meal. And that's because there's lots of food available. If you want to eat local, you can spend as little as 2,000 Ugandan shillings for their express meal that we really love, which is roll eggs. And you will find stands all over the city, all over Kampala, everywhere in the local communities that sell roll eggs. And you'll get them for 2,000 Ugandan shillings. But if you want to go to some place like, they actually have a KFC here. Okay. And they have lots of East Indian restaurants, pizza. They have the gamut and array of food choices that you are accustomed to seeing, and you will find them everywhere. And you will expect to pay anywhere from $7 USD up to as much as $15 USD per meal.
Yeah, a rough estimate generally you'll see is probably 30,000 Ghana shillings, which is a little less than $10 for like a baseline good meal at like a hotel or like a mall area.
And the meals are very hearty.
Yes.
You get hearty meals. They don't chinch on the food. You'll get samosas for 2,000, 2,500 Ugandan shillings. They usually give you two. Samosas, they're the standard size that we were used to seeing in the States. And they're very good, very tasty. And as far as drinks are concerned, you want to drink a lot of water because the temperatures are hot in Africa. So you want to make it a habit of having your water with you at all times. And to purchase water bottles, they'd run anywhere from 1,000 to 6,000 Ugandan shillings. And that's about a liter if you get the biggest ones. But you'd be better off getting them at the grocery store, but you will get them at every restaurant and hotel in dining that you encounter. And they run anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 Uganda shillings.
That also includes, like, even with beers, if you want to take in a little bit of that, that you can probably expect between maybe 6,000 to 8,000 Ugandan shillings for those.
We love cappuccinos. We're coffee people. You know, coffee is a culture in the U.S. Coffee is a culture in the U.S. And they have very good coffee here in Africa. They grow the coffee and they package, back, and sell it locally. So we get cappuccinos quite often. And they'll run you anywhere from 4,000 to 12,000 Ugandan shillings, which is roughly, I'm going to put the cost.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm going to put the cost below just to give you a cool idea as to what you're looking with. But listen, it's not going to be more than $6. And listen, in the States, we pay $7, $8 for, Americana from Starbucks. So I'm just saying. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's very good, authentic, tastes amazing, and you're not going to pay nearly as much. Drink your water. We actually had a couple of incidentals, right? And in those incidentals, I occasionally have pain problems with my back, headaches, maybe. And adjusting to the mattresses is a thing because I'm generally used to being on a firm mattress, but mattresses here in Uganda are firm. And It took me a bit to adjust, right? But I did have some pain and I needed to stop. My first go around, I needed pain meds. So we stopped at the local pharmacy and I was able to get a medication that's similar to what I take in the States, which is a BC powder. I can't quite recall the name of the medication, but I will put it in the comments for you to see once I can get my hands on it. But it was exceptional and it didn't taste nasty. The BC powders that I take in the States are nasty.
Yeah, most of those are nasty.
But it works.
Minty or something. It was like a minty taste. Right?
It was a minty taste, and it works again better than my BC powders in 10 minutes, and it lasted longer. This time, I actually had a sinus attack, and I went for Benadryl. I was able to find Benadryl at a local pharmacy nearby the Acacia Mall, which is not too far from our villa, and it was 45,000 Ugandan shillings, which is about $13, which is about $4 more than it would be in the States for the same package. But remember, the travel, the distance, when you get things that are specific name brand to what you are accustomed to in the States, it is going to be an exorbitant tax on it. Yeah. So that's okay. I was fine with paying the $13. That was in extenuating circumstances. I sincerely suggest that you bring your medications with you if you can, preventative as well as possibility. Who knows what may happen. So bring your pain meds, your allergy meds, your calamine lotion, your bug sprays. Bring those things with you. Don't go over 3 ounces because you know what the TSA do.
So now we've talked about quite a few things you want to plan for. And in that, we also wanted you to keep in mind some things you want to avoid or be preventative around. So just to recap a couple of the things is that you want to make sure that you know the proper payment methods when you apply for your visas. Make sure you plan your medications ahead of time. Give yourself enough lead time to plan out the medication that you need. If you're going to be your malaria, if maybe probiotics, anything else you may feel you may need for your particular situation. Give yourself enough lead time for your booking of your flight.
And also be sure to book places that offer breakfast. You can book places through booking.com that offers at least one of your meals and that has in-room dining, so you won't have to go far. And those places generally have menus that you will be accustomed to seeing. If you're a little bit courageous, it's totally fine for you to have street vendors. Roll eggs is 2,000 Ugandan shillings. And there's something similar in Kenya as well, where they give breakfast that is at a very reduced rate when you get it from your local vendors.
A couple other things you want to keep in mind that we really think is really key that you want to avoid as Americans. We want to avoid the American bubble infiltrating other countries. Please be respectful of the cultures that you're coming to. It's very important to understand that not every place in the world operates in the same way as America, and it's also not a fault or a deficit. It's just a different way of operating. And one of the key things that we wanted to keep in mind when traveling was to leave any expectations of what we're used to in America when coming to the continent. So understand that the culture may move differently, time may move differently, work processes, all certain things, aspects may move differently. And it's important to understand that and respect it. If you're curious, be kind and curious to ask the questions necessary to make sure that you're a better visitor in a space. And keep in mind you're a visitor in the space, right? Even if you were someone that was going for citizenship, still keep in mind those particular ways of being when you're in another country. I just think that's very crucial when traveling anywhere, whether it's Uganda, whether it's Kenya, whether it's any other country in Africa or all over the world. Understand that different cultures operate different ways, and make sure to bring your best self, not your American self, so to speak.
And your reference point is going to be the U.S. So it's almost something you can't get away from. It's a reflex.
Yeah, of course.
I will say, be prepared to be open and have an inquisitive heart. Ask the questions, and quite often you're going to encounter curiosity as well as you have curiosity. They have curiosity too. Ugandans, Kenyans, individuals from African countries, they're not really accustomed to engaging with people from other places, particularly Black Americans who are on their trek for self-discovery. So it is a new experience for them. So be gentle with that experience as much as humanly possible. Ask questions and also put your best foot forward. What is your best foot? Be courteous. Be kind.
That's it, guys. So for now, We hope this information was super helpful to you, especially if you're thinking about traveling to the continent and if you're thinking about Uganda or Kenya, any part of East Africa, as your first trip. So we hope you enjoyed this vlog. We are the Growin Folx, growing in more ways than one, and we hope that you grow with us as well. Continue to follow this journey. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you feel it could be helpful not only to yourself, but a friend, someone that you want to come along with you on the trip. So we thank you for your time. We hope you join us and see you in the next video. Any parting words?
Peace.
Peace. One love.
Greetings. Keep going.
Give space.
Greetings, family. How are you? So listen, have you ever wanted to travel to Africa and there being concerned?